Well, Andebrhan Giorgis is a former Eritrean ambassador to the EU, and he's also president of Eri-Platform, an international civil association working to promote dialogue on issues impacting Eritrea and the Horn of Africa. He joins me now from Brussels. Thanks so much for speaking to us. I'd just like to get your feeling on where things are going and how optimistic you are. I mean, do you think Eritrea and Ethiopia can only move forward from here? Because some are still very concerned, as you've heard, that there will be no real progress because the same government has been in power since 1993.
Thank you very much for having me. When the joint declaration of peace and friendship was signed on July 9, 2018, it was warmly welcomed in both countries. 6 months after today, there is really no detail, or there are no details concerning the peace agreement. They have not been institutionalized. Ethiopian troops continue to occupy sovereign Eritrean territory. There has been no demarcation of the boundary. Both leaders have been downplaying the importance of demarcation, which I think is wrong, because a clear boundary defines the limits of domestic jurisdiction. It also defines citizenship identity. It also defines which country would provide essential administrative, economic, and social services for the people in the borderlands.
Okay.
So I think this is a very significant setback. Moreover, there is really in the two countries, in Ethiopia, there are the pains of transition where they have open warfare in Oromia, the largest regional state, very serious tension between the central government and the Tigray regional state in the north. And in Eritrea, a state of brutal repression continues. There is really tension, there is fervent in the Eritrean body politic, and there is a really growing demand for change.
There's growing demand for change. There absolutely is. But then, I mean, it's disappointing to hear your actual lack of optimism because, as we said, this seemed to be the only peace settlement that we could celebrate in 2018. So where do you actually see it going in the endgame? Will there be a return to conflict if the government in Eritrea stays the same?
Look, when the two leaders are saying the border is not important, we should not forget that it was the cause of the war which consumed over 100,000 lives on both sides, destroyed hundreds of millions worth of infrastructure and property on both sides, and now they are telling us it's not important. And of course, when a relationship is confined to two leaders, it's not institutionalized, it does not take the form and content of a government to government, it's quite worrisome, because it was that kind of relationship that brought the two countries to war in the first place in 1998. So there is concern that history may be repeating itself in this case.
Then help us understand why, particularly the Eritrean government, agreed to this in the first place. Was there a sort of desperation to look like change towards peace is being made?
Yes, indeed. The regime has isolated the country. Let's not forget that 6 months ago, Eritrea was under UN sanctions. And of course, the sanctions were used as an excuse, as a pretext for the worsening economic situation in the country. The sanctions have been removed now. There was this situation of no war, no peace, which of course had essentially blockaded the country. The country was not having any relations with its neighbors. So this total isolation was suffocating for the regime. So the offer of the prime minister gave the leader of Eritrea an opening out of this suffocating isolation. But now, because of the serious democratic deficit in the country, the lack of movement, the lack of any indication that there would be, in fact, any movement in the future, is again turning people back, saying, what is then going on?
Okay.
Since 6 months ago, there's been no movement on the border. Why are Ethiopian troops still on their sovereign Eritrean territory? Why isn't any indication that the boundary is going to be demarcated?
Understood. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. We are out of time, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights on TRT World.
Thank you very much. Thank you.